Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're receiving this audio. Welcome back to another episode of the Busted Coverage Podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Persampieri, joined always by my colleagues Matthew Baywood and Cam Griffin. Before we get started, we just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We try to get this out every Sunday, and we really appreciate all the support. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so that you'll know when new episodes get posted. And also leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. Ask us some questions and get our takes on it. With that said, Matt is going to be our moderator for today, and he's going to go over what we'll be discussing. So from there, Mr. Baywood, take it away.
Thanks, Nick. Today we're going to be talking about the NFL Combine. Piggybacking off that, we're going to be hitting on the NCAA quarterbacks and the quality of the draft class, as well as NFL free agency. Following up those topics, we have our weekly segments with Nick's Rants, Baywood's Bets, and Cam's Jam of the Week. So with that being said, the this the combine was just over a week ago. We got to see some of the great future NFL prospects. It seems that players are just getting faster and faster and more skilled as time progresses, and we expect to see that. So with that being said, I'm going to start off with Cam. Who do you think stole the show at the combine this weekend?
Well, thanks. Realistically, I think, as you said, players have been getting faster and faster. And as a former track person, I always like to see how fast we can have players running the 40. But I think some players that surprised me that stole the show would have to be the safety out of South Carolina, Nick Amanwari. Just the way his height and his size at 6'3" to pull off a 4.3 40. Just I was watching it out of just pure amazement, shock, the athleticism of him too, almost like a basketball player, literally playing football. The way he's able to move, um, and to me, the combine also. These are players we have seen in pads, in some cases at good schools. So being able to see them do what they say they're going to do, or what we hope they could do, or even exceed our expectations, always amazes me. And the safety from South Carolina was definitely one of them. More on a cockier note was the cornerback from Kentucky, Maxwell Harrison, almost because he said he was going to put on a show when he got to the combine. And this dude put on a show. You know, he ran a 4.28 40. Crazy. Um, so to me, those are the two that stood out in my mind. Again, I'm a former track person, so watching the straight up speed of the receivers, the safeties, the cornerbacks, that's always where I tend to go to. Um, so those would be the two that stole the show for me. And I know we were talking about what stood out. What kind of stood out in general, and I know you may get into it a little later, but it kind of goes with what I'm saying as to why some of these people stole the show, is the people who did not participate. And I think that will be something that I think we'll all put a microscope on and we'll check out. But those are the two that stole the show to me.
Nick, you have anything on your mind?
First and foremost, I was going to say Nick Amenwari as well. Um, Beat me to it, Cam. But so I'll pick a couple different other people that stood out to me. Before I do that, though, I do want to shout out, and I don't think he's listening right now, but if you are, shout out to Ja Joyner, representing my hometown. He's edge rusher out of Minnesota. He was at the combine this year. So congratulations, Ja. We're rooting for you back home. Feel big things are on the horizon for you, kids. So just keep grinding. So that's my little shout out. But anyway, a couple people that I've been paying attention to a little bit. First and foremost, I'm looking at some of the big boys on the defensive line. I was really impressed with Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. He ran a 4.68 40 with over a 40-inch vertical at 6'6". 265. He's got long arms, long legs, long stride. And his 10-yard split was a 165, which is extremely quick for someone of his size. Going off of that bigger, faster, stronger thing, I thought he had a really, really good workout. And the other player that I think really boosted his stock the most was Jackson Dart. I know we have a little bit more, later on in our next couple of topics, but I really think he did himself some favors. He looked pretty good, at least in my opinion. I tried not to use too much bias because I am very high on him, and I think he did deliver. He got a great opportunity with some people who sat out, who we will also be naming shortly. Another person that I think is kind of under the radar. Um, there's a corner out of Texas, Jahdae Barron. I thought he had a really good workout as well. I really like him coming out of Texas at 5'11". It's about 190, 195 or so, but I, I, I got a feeling about him. That's all I'm going to say. So those are my picks. But I think also, too, going off of what Cam said, I think the story is more about who's not working out and the focus now going to the pro days so that these prospects can really give that final impression before the draft. So we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. So
I agree with both of you to an extent. Landon Jackson is definitely a monster. There's another defensive end in his class that had a very similar outcome. Stewart from Texas A&M. I believe his 10-yard split was like 1.6 or 1.58 or 9. It's absolutely insane when you watch that back. He's also another big boy, 265. Also jumped 40 plus inches in the vertical. So it's not typical for guys in the interior of the line, or sometimes depending on the system that you're in, being pushed more towards the exterior like a Myles Garrett or a JJ Watt at the time. But when you got these big guys that are able to get off the ground like that, you're going to be an absolute menace batting down passes in the league. You can't teach that. It's just absolute God-given ability. As Cam had mentioned, there was a corner that absolutely obliterated the 40-yard dash, as well as other events in the combine. But a 4.28 as a corner is very impressive. He'll have a closing speed that you definitely need when you're going against some of the top talent in the NFL. That being said, there's several corners that came close to that. We had Darian Porter out of Iowa. He had a 4.3. He's a corner. We also had Caleb Ransaw. He ran a 4.33. He's also a corner. We got a corner from Kansas State, Jacob Parrish, 4.35. Za Frazier from Texas, 4.36. So that just shows how fast this draft class is. That's not including any receivers or running backs who also had phenomenal days. I'm not going to go through the top 10 of the 40-yard dash. We could all see that for ourselves or have already. Interior defensive lineman, just continuing on that. Ty Robinson from Nebraska, another absolute beast. Who did we mention before, Cam? It was the South Carolina safety.
Yeah. So
I
Nick,
really want, yeah, Nick Emenwari, I think is how you pronounce it. Maybe not.
yes, something.
But yeah, you were describing how big of a presence he is on the football field. We saw him be explosive at South Carolina, but I don't know if that was the right system for him. He could fall into, like, let's say a Ravens, or you don't want him to fall into a situation where he's on like a Dolphins team, because we see what's going on with Holland, where Holland had these great numbers through the first few years of his career, but they don't have anybody on the back end to be able to help him out. If he goes to a bona fide defense, he is going to be my early pick to be a many-time Pro Bowler and All Pro. So being that we talked about the winners or the surprises of the combine, how do we feel about players that we thought were going to be doing really well, but maybe didn't? Maybe there were some disappointments. Cam, do you want to start with that one as well? Do you have anybody that you were looking forward to seeing perform and underperformed?
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of hype around the year in general around the quarterback situation. Do you take Cam Ward? Do you take Shador Sanders? Will somebody else sneak in there? We watched the college football playoff this year. Bo Scatterbo came out of, to be honest, nowhere and probably captured the heart of the nation the way he played in that game. Hoping Jonte would be there and crush numbers. I just can't express how disappointing it is that I believe none of them took part in the events we wanted to see them do. Now, I get Bo Scatterborough's injured, coming off an injury. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of Abdul Carter I know there's a foot issue going around with him, so his draft stock's actually fluctuating because of it. Meanwhile, he's still going to be a very high pick and could be obviously the first pick depending on which way teams decide to go. But I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and say Shador Sanders. I really wanted to see him throw against other quarterbacks to kind of take what I feel about him and either confirm it or prove me wrong. And unfortunately, I'm walking away again with more questions. I don't feel he's the best quarterback in the draft at all. I didn't feel he was the best quarterback in college football, and I still don't. So to draft him where he's potentially being talked about with all these question marks, I think is a little concerning, and I think the combine would have answered a lot of those questions. So it's a little disappointing that he chose not to throw. And I would assume he's waiting for his pro day, but that's more player controlled, which has always been the backstory with Shador is how good is he really when your dad's not going to be there? When things go awry, can you handle it? And the answer has always been a question mark. So I think the combine would have been a nice answer to that. But again, he did not choose to participate 100%. So that's my biggest disappointment, in all fairness. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Shador would be the person I felt was most disappointing.
Nick, who do you think was a disappointment in your opinion?
I mean, kind of piggybacking off of what Cam mentioned, I think both Cam Ward and Shador Sanders had an opportunity to really kind of cement themselves as the number one pick in the draft. I mean, more than likely, one of those guys could go one. They could go 1-2 still, but I think if they had both participated, even if they didn't like run the 40 or do the bench press, whatever. But if they came to throw the football and put on a show and put on a clinic and compete, to see who really is the best guy, so I really wanted to see that. I think a lot of people did because, as Cam likes to say, there are more questions now than answers. So are we, we're waiting for their pro days now to see what they got, but they could have put everything to bed. Any questions that people might have had. And on that, we'll see what happens. I know we're going to discuss a little bit more of this in a bit. One other player that, I thought really didn't help themselves out is Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss. He was someone a lot of people were really high on. I don't think he had the greatest workout. And even looking at some next gen stats on NFL.com, I'm citing my sources here, but production score ranked 17th among combine corners this year, and athleticism ranked at 21st. Now, that doesn't mean anything, right? Time speed is different than game speed and all this other stuff, but I don't think he did himself any favors. So I hope he can bounce back and, maybe prove me wrong. But as it stands right now, I'm kind of out on Trey Amos at the moment. Where, earlier in the year I would have said, yeah, he's a solid pick. So
Gotcha. I like where you were going when you said when you were talking about Shador and Cam Ward, like at least just show up and throw the football. It's like that's what your position is built on doing. If you just show up and throw the football, you shouldn't have any issues with that because that's what you do every day. If you don't want to show up and do the bench press, well, no one's expecting you to be blocking downfield and stuff. So it's an additive when you see players doing that, being a team player, but at the same time, like Shador has some character concerns on top of not showing up at the combine didn't really help his stock at the moment, and we could talk about that in our next topic. In my opinion, there was a few players where I was just like scratching my head at like kind of what are we doing here? Gunnar Helm from Texas. He wasn't the greatest tight end in college. I don't know if any of us expected him to be in the first round, or I mean, he might be like a mid-round pick, but you got a tight end that's running like almost a 5 at the 40, and he had the worst vertical jump out of any tight end. So what exactly? I don't remember that I saw that at Texas from him. He seemed decent, and I didn't see like no vertical ability or slow. So as Nick was saying, game speed's a little bit different than like a straight line speed, but man, that might hurt him. Other than that, yeah, I was disappointed not seeing Shador. Nick brings up a good point with the Mississippi corner. I wasn't paying too closely attention to him. It's kind of hard for me to assess a corner in the combine, but he definitely was on a big school defense. That pretty much wraps up my disappointments. I mean, I always enjoy seeing the combine. I wish all players would do it. With that being said, how do we feel about top prospects like Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, as well as Penn State star edge rusher Abdul Carter not participating in the combine? Pass this
It,
one
it, it's
to Cam.
it's disappointing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll jump on it because I put some notes down. It's disappointing. You know, the combine is your opportunity to show why we are talking about you, why you have the opportunities of what you have. And Nick's right. Game speed is way different. But the combine also, if you are a top performer, can hurt you to not participate because all it takes is one or two people having a great event, and now we're questioning everything. You know, I'll go to last year as a perfect example. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels did not throw at the combine. JJ McCarthy did. And I don't believe we had JJ McCarthy going in the draft where he went in the draft. That was strictly combine. Oh, well, he won a national title. He did. But again, we didn't have him going where he went in the draft. It was his combine tape that got him where he needed to go. To not show up to the combine and do what we're all hoping you do, it just hurts you unless you are established. Shador went to Colorado. The question has never been Shador's the star of the team. It's been about Travis Hunter from day one. Cam Ward went to Miami. Yes, Miami was rejuvenated, but who the hell did you beat? You played nobody. So we didn't get to see you do anything. And not to mention, a lot of your games weren't even on TV in great hours. So we had more questions. So to not show up and answer those questions, it's disappointing. And, for the combine. But the combine, again, can make or break you. And it can only help you if you're good. And if no one knows who you are, then it can help you make a name for yourself. Again, reiterate, game speed, game strength, a lot different. But this is as close to simulation as we can get. When greatness is called upon, that's when you need to do it. And that's what the combine is. We're telling you to be great. You have one shot at it, maybe two. Go do it. Because if you suck at the combine, we're going to have more questions. And then your pro day, we're going to pick that apart even worse than we did at the combine. Again, I will reiterate, the pro day is player controlled. You can choose what you want to do. NFL's not giving you stuff to do. You choose what you want to show them. The combine, you kind of don't have a say. So them not participating, it's huge for me. And that's what I will say on that. And if we get into more of a Shador and Cam Ward going 1-2, there's some similarities that I would like to reiterate and point out to Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams going 1-2. We had no questions with them because we saw them all the time. The issues that I was harping on about Caleb Williams in college were the issues he had in the NFL. So your pro day can help. It won't help you if we have those issues. We have question marks and you don't show up to the combine and do the same things. So that's just me. If you don't have the resume from college to prove it, then you should be doing the combine.
Well, Nick, I'm going to have you go last on this topic just because I know you have some stuff to say that you could just pass out at the end. So I think Shador had a great year. I mean, he had like over 4,000 yards. Obviously, yards in college are pretty relative, especially with some of the competition that Colorado plays. 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. That's a good ratio. He had a pretty high completion percentage. I think it was actually over 70%, if I'm not mistaken. I think his QBR was also like mid 70s, which is pretty good. Granted, he did have the Heisman Trophy winner on his team. And I'm definitely okay with Travis Hunter not participating because we know he's a star. He's just out there mossing people on offense and locking people up on defense. I mean, it's a generational talent. Shador might be playing his name card a little bit. That's a little worrisome. It's like the whole Bronny James situation where you might not be ready for the league, but you're going anyway. Maybe he's hiding it, maybe he's not. I mean, the dude's got an arm. I mean, I think he showed off his arm on videos, but it's like we don't want to see it on videos. We want to see it at the combine where everyone else is there. I think both quarterbacks, being that this is like a relatively weaker quarterback class than even last year. I mean, we didn't get to see anything out of JJ, unfortunately, besides the one preseason game because of his injury. But Jaden Daniels was phenomenal. We've seen some really good quarterbacks come into the league real young and just start taking off rather early in their career. So although Jaden didn't do it, he succeeded. I was going to bring up Caleb Williams as sort of a counter to, but at the same time, Cam, you brought up his NFL productivity, and right now he looks like he stinks. But we know that system is also horrible, so I'm going to give Caleb the benefit of the doubt for at least a couple years. However, there was times where he just looked deer in the headlights. However, he didn't throw at the combine. It didn't hurt his draft stock. How do we feel, and I'm going to lean to Nick to this, how do we feel Shador's draft stock is after not participating in the combine, as well as the original question of how do you feel about prospects opting out of the combine? Go ahead, Nick.
So I know we also mentioned Abdul Carter really quick. I think you guys said he's dealing with like a foot injury, right, or something like that. So I can understand why he wouldn't participate if you're injured.
Mhm.
That's a whole different thing. Plus, I don't think anyone questions Abdul Carter, like his upside, where he is currently. He's a bona fide stud, in my opinion. Same thing with Travis Hunter, albeit, all the stuff with Colorado and all this other things. No one denies Travis Hunter's talent and what he's accomplished. He won the Heisman. He won the Blittenkoff. He won the what's the other award? He won the Thorpe or something like that.
Jim Thorpe, I believe.
The Thorpe, yeah. So he won pretty much the most outstanding awards. Won most outstanding wide receiver, corner, and most outstanding player. Even though Jonty should have won the Heisman, but that is an argument for another day. The fact of the matter is, Travis has the trophy. Travis has the stats. Travis is the marquee name coming out of college football. That's not a quarterback. With that said, going on to the quarterbacks, specifically being Shador Sanders and Cam Ward. If you have a chance to solidify yourself and you're not injured, you should do the combine because you can always make up a bad workout at your pro day. And a wise man once said, your best ability is availability. And a bad workout can be corrected, but no workout can't. So to me, Shador, when I watch Shador on tape, he does not jump out to me and say, that's the guy. That's a franchise altering quarterback. And maybe I'm wrong. I will gladly come on here and say I was wrong. I said the same things about Bryce Young. I thought he was a bust waiting to happen. But after his second season, there's some promise. I'm probably going to be wrong on that, and that's fine. But with that said, at least Bryce has arm talent and anticipation and all this kind of stuff. I just don't see that with Shador yet. Whereas Cam has the athleticism to kind of make up. He can play at the NFL game speed, which I think will help him. He just needs to go to the right system. But again, you not being at the combine to see where some strengths or weaknesses are, because some weaknesses aren't bad. Some coaches can say, we can fix that. Is it a footwork thing? Is it a mechanic thing? No scout is going to say, whoa, he throws the ball too hard or too far. So there are certain things where a coach could say, yeah, we'll take a flyer on a Cam Ward. Okay, we need to maybe work his hips with, turning in the pocket or something, whatever it is. I'm not a coach or a scout or whatever, but can you play? But like Cam said, the combine and your pro day are the closest thing that we're going to get to assessing what you could become. And if you're not out there, how can we assess you? So, but to answer the question about Shador's draft stock, I think it hurts him in the end. Maybe not by a lot. We'll see what happens. But I think it's more a testament to some of the quarterbacks that were at the combine and did well, like a Jackson Dart, of him being pulled up more than potentially hurting Cam Ward. Well, I think Cam Ward's going number one. That's just my opinion. But if it's going to hurt any of them, it's going to hurt Shador the most because of the name. So that's my take.
Nick, did you want to, or Cam, did you want to reply to Nick at all, or do you want me to move to another question in the same topic?
No, I think I'm still on the. I really feel, again, like we've been saying, if you mess up at the combine, you have your pro day. But we want to see you go out there and at least attempt. If you're injured, which several of them are, we won't hold that against you. And even if you're injured through your pro day, we saw what you did when it needed to count. But for Cam Ward, who I believe in Cam Ward. I think he'll be a good player. Shador Sanders is where my question is, because the hype has been high. And I'm going to go back to last year. When Travis Hunter got hurt and was out several games, even though even though Shador had no offensive line and was running for his life, there were still parts of the game where you're like, okay, you need to make this throw just to get away. The knock on Shador was, well, he doesn't throw the ball away. Okay, that can be fixed a little bit. But then he came back this year, and we had some of the same questions we had last year. If he's not throwing the ball to a great receiver, is he himself a good receiver? I mean, a good quarterback. He can be. Not every receiver is going to be on the Heisman Trophy winners level, but we need to see good habits from him. And we didn't see that. And I think the pro day and the combine would help that from him. So in terms of, Shador, I'm not sure. And you brought up a good point, Matt. You said you're right. He did throw for over 4,000 yards in college. And on the flip side to that, so did 5 other quarterbacks.
Right.
So, it's kind of hard to sit there if you're a GM and say, well, we're going to look at his college stats. He didn't throw the most yards in college. He just threw over a number. He didn't have the most yards per game. He just threw over a number that we have established. And he didn't throw more touchdowns than some other quarterbacks. He just threw over a number. So he'd be like one of 3 quarterbacks that threw over 4,000 yards, who had so many touchdowns and averaged, over 300 yards a game, something like that, maybe all-purpose yards. So, again, the one we're not talking about is the one that I feel is actually better than him, is Jackson Dart. So, again, my questions would be, you didn't do the combine. What makes you better than him? He played in a better conference. He put up more numbers and better numbers than you do. Are we talking about you because you're a better talent or because of your last name? And I think that would be the thing about Shedeur that I feel. But again, Nick said it best. If he ends up being great, we'll eat crow. But in all fairness, it's not pointing in that direction. Everyone's got more questions than they do answers on Shedeur Sanders. And I think reality check comes in when you realize you're not throwing to Travis Hunter. Because we've already seen what happens when Travis Hunter is not available.
So I think we all have Cam Ward probably going to the Titans at number 1 overall. At number 2, we have the Browns, who just paid Myles Garrett a huge amount of money after he requested a trade. I think it was trade or contract, and they gave him the contract. They weren't letting him go. So at number 2, the Browns really have maybe a roll the dice option. Who would option C be after Shedeur if they decide to pass on Shedeur? Do we take Jackson with an X Dart, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard? Some of them have similar play styles as Jalen Hurts, who obviously is coming off of a Super Bowl win. So somebody might lean towards Jalen Milroe, maybe not with the same throwing ability as Shedeur. So that being said, Cam, who would your
Mm-hmm.
option C be? I know Nick is sort of leaning towards the Jackson Dart, but I don't want to speak for him, so he'll be able to address that after. But Cam, who do you think the option C should be if the Browns decide to look elsewhere?
I think the if you're the Browns, the question is, if you don't take a quarterback, you know, uh, you just re-signed Myles Garrett, and I think I'm with Nick, a little questionable, but for the amount of money, but I would go different. I don't know if I would draft a quarterback
They
if you
need it
don't feel
badly,
100.
Cam. Yeah,
I know they do. I know they do. Again, this is a good draft class. I'm not sure it's a great draft class. So if you want to draft a quarterback, I would go Jackson Dart. What I would love to do is I would love to put Abdul Carter on the other side of Myles Garrett, and
that
then
would be
try and sign
insane.
one in free agency, and try and sign a quarterback in free agency. And I think you may be able to play around with that defense behind him.
Well,
But that's another story. But I think I would go Jackson Dart. If you're not gonna go, you can't go Cam Ward if he's not there. I would go Jackson Dart. To me, and we don't have questions about Jackson Dart, really. The only question we have is why he wouldn't go 1 or 2. Obviously, he doesn't have the namesake and probably the total package of height, athleticism, everything. But I would go Jackson Dart if I were the Cleveland Browns. I'm not sure I would go Shedeur. That would be my option C.
okay, Nick, I'm going to read you a list of the NFL free agency quarterbacks. And then I'm going to ask you if you would take any of those 4 college quarterbacks over the available free agent market. We got Sam Darnold, we got Zach Wilson, we got Jacoby Brissett, Trey Lance is in there, Marcus Mariota. You got 2 in Pittsburgh, and Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. A former Pittsburgh quarterback, Mason Rudolph. You got Case Keenum, who's been around the league, and I believe he's been to a NFC Championship game before. We got Jimmy G, Carson Wentz, Mac Jones is back in free agency, Jameis Winston, and Joe Flacco, both very similar players in terms of being able to just come in and just lead a team. Maybe not consistently for the entire season, but they could put up some numbers in a very short period of time. Would you take any of those 3 or 4 quarterbacks in college over some of these free agents?
So, as the imaginary acting general manager of the Cleveland Browns, here is what I would do if I had to put pen to paper for the next year or whatever, planning out the future stuff. If I sign any free agent quarterback that is available right now today, the only one I'm going after is Justin Fields. Why? Because he's still young. I think he still has a ton of upside. 4-2 last year as the Steelers starting quarterback before he was benched for Russell Wilson, in my opinion, for no reason. But it happened. You can get him on the cheap, and you don't have to give a long-term commitment. Then that would allow you to take Abdul Carter at number 2 because you can solve quarterback and edge rusher on the other side of Myles Garrett, because outside of Garrett, you have no pass rush while still maintaining a decent salary cap because Deshaun Watson will be gone, I believe, after next year. So that at least gets situated. If Justin Fields is not available, at number 2, I'm actually going to trade the pick. I will take some future draft assets and I'll look to the 2nd or 3rd round to take a Jackson Dart or even I'll take a flyer on Milroe in the 3rd round if needed. Even though I actually like Will Howard more than I like Jalen Milroe. I know, bad take of the day, but where the Browns are positioned organizationally right now in terms of salary, a lack of future draft capital, plus giving this big extension to Garrett, to me, those are the only 2 routes that they should go. And I'm not quite sure if I want Fields more than Dart. I think they're the same. If Fields is there for the right price, I would take Justin Fields and then draft Abdul Carter. If not, then I'd trade. That'd be my take.
Cam, we know you're a
Yo,
Patriots fan, so we know that you aren't locked up at a quarterback need in the 4th pick.
mm-mm.
Nick is saying that he would trade the pick back. So you could get a pretty decent. I mean, the 1st overall pick, you obviously get a king's ransom. 2nd overall pick, it's pretty similar to the 1st. Do you think
Yeah,
that the Patriots should trade up to snag a Travis Hunter, to snag maybe an Abdul Carter, or the Browns are going to take Abdul Carter and pass on their very desperate quarterback need?
and it's funny. I never thought of that. I haven't thought about it. I was just so happy. I was so upset we had a shot at the number 1 pick, and then we fell. I think Travis Hunter would be the person you would look to if you're the Patriots and hope. But at the same time, sitting at 4 with the amount of money we have, again, I think the best ability will be availability. So I would like to see what happens and what we're offered for the 4th pick on draft day, because I think that's going to decide what we end up doing. Again, we have needs, but we can go out. I hate saying it this way, but different regime. We can go out and buy our needs. We don't really need to draft them. Obviously, it'd be nice. We have somewhat of a young team to draft one under contract, rookie deal for a few years. But we could still get a king's ransom depending on who the first 3 picks are. If one of the first 3 picks is not Hunter, it is not Ward, and it is not Shador, and it's somebody else, someone's going to come calling at that number 4 spot. It may even be just move back 1 space. But I'm very curious to see what happens. So I don't really have an answer for it. If our cap wasn't where it was, it was a little harder, I might have said, you know what? I think we just need to move up. But we have the ability to do so many different things this year. I don't think I don't think a lot of teams have seen the amount of money that we have in a long time. So I stay where we are at the moment. I know we'd want to thought would be move up, get Shador, but I think there's 4 players that I would be I'd be okay with. LSU fan, Will Campbell. I'm not drafting back. I would like to pick him up. Anytime you can draft a quarterback, we got a lineman. We have our quarterback of the future. Now we need to protect him. I would not be upset about that pick. If Shador fell to us, who doesn't want a 2-way superstar? I really have no
You meant
real
Travis?
set. Yeah, and Travis Hunter, I really don't mind. There's enough players out there that I think would be good at number 4. But if I'm getting rid of my pick, it wouldn't bother me either because we have capital to go out. Okay, we can't get someone, we can go buy somebody if they're willing to come to New England. But as we've seen with other players in other places, money talks.
So what I've learned to do, and this is why I sort of went this way. I know we're kind of bleeding into our next topic of NFL free agency and the needs there. But I was sort of leaning towards this way because we've had some quarterback needs on these teams like the Giants, the Browns, the Titans for several years now, and obviously drafting a quarterback might not be working out for them with the Browns not having a real success. I mean, Baker Mayfield they let go in my opinion, but Johnny Manziel didn't work out. They've drafted several other quarterbacks since. They've had Baker Mayfield. They've tried uh they've tried in free agency. Tennessee's taken Malik Willis. They've taken Levis. Didn't find anything there. The Giants have had Danny Jones was the biggest new one. The Patriots at 4. A couple years ago they drafted Mac Jones. They've had Jimmy G. So the reason why I go this way is because they might not be willing to pay this high for a quarterback that's not participating in the combine. Because if you're not going to show up to the combine and then you shit the bed, excuse my language, but you shit the bed on the pro day, you're not getting drafted anywhere near the top 10. So I guess this was my way of stressing the importance of doing the combine because you could, as both of you have said, you can make or break your draft position based off of your performance at the combine. So, with that being said, do we think Jackson Dart, his performance has elevated him over Shador Sanders, or do we think Shador will still, maybe just based off name or maybe merit, that he goes late in the first or early in the second? I'm gonna lead with Nick on this one.
Well, outside of Cam Ward, Jackson Dart's my top quarterback. He's been my top quarterback along with Cam. So I already had him over Shador. Others will see it differently. But so to answer the question, me personally, I would absolutely take Jackson Dart over Shador Sanders any day of the week. That's just my opinion. And the reason is Jackson Dart is better than Shador Sanders. Until that changes, that's my stance.
Cam, you have anything to say on that? Since we went
No,
on sort of a long-winded, roundabout way to get to this point.
I agree. I look, you go with who you feel comfortable with, and I think at the end of the day, we know what Jackson Dart can do. We've seen it week in and week out. We didn't have too many questions. Again, the pressure wasn't really on Jackson Dart because not too many people around the country were talking about him because he wasn't one of the top 2 quote unquote quarterback quarterback topics. People. Nick and both of you guys actually should know Jackson Dart was my preseason Heisman favorite because I knew what his talent was. I said if he can navigate the schedule that he has, and if he can be one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback, there's no reason they can't win the Heisman. Now, they lost some close games, and his name kind of fell out off of it, which is fine. It happens. but the stats were still there. His interceptions, unfortunately, came in tidal wave form, meaning it wasn't just one interception. When he threw them, he threw them. But we say that with a lot of quarterbacks. So to me, I would still, talent-wise, I still like Jackson Dart. I would draft him before Shedeur Sanders, and I know this will be a clip that's played on repeat if it doesn't end up working out. But going off of what we've seen, I'd be hard pressed to say Shedeur has better tape than Jackson Dart does.
Agreed.
All right.
But I would like to say one last thing though, because you were reading off that free agency list for the NFL quarterbacks.
Yep.
And I was going through it, waiting for you to say a quarterback that could actually that you would actually want to start your franchise with. And I was actually looking at it and looking at who our draft quarterbacks were. The question is, in general, do you feel any of those free agent quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks? Probably not. Do we feel that the quarterbacks in this draft class, we're not saying they're not good, but are they franchise quarterbacks? I don't think so, personally. So why not trade back in the draft in general and just get one of those other quarterbacks? Because at the end of the day, I think it was Matt, I think you brought it up. The Browns had been through 3 or 4 people they thought were franchise quarterbacks already.
Yeah.
And let them go.
Maybe more. I think
And
they've been through like 20 plus quarterbacks in a decade.
I'm going back a few years for us. But it's all about where you're drafted or where you're traded to. I look at Baker Mayfield, was not really a fan, but you can't deny what he's doing in Tampa right now.
Yeah, no,
you look what?
I said no, you can't. The Browns major league fumbled that one.
You look at, I'll say someone here. I liked Derek Carr as a Raider. I thought he had a lot of help. I don't think the management helped him out too much, but I liked Derek Carr originally as the Raiders quarterback. But I think he wet the bed in New Orleans. Yes, injuries played his part, but if you look at the roster, he had receivers, he had running backs. Some scheme didn't help him, and other things didn't help him. But like, I don't know where you go with quarterbacks, but I don't think there's any quarterback that we're drafting that I would say I will build my franchise around that is better than any of those free agents. And I don't think I would even look at those free agents and say you're going to be my starter from day one for the next 2 or 3 years. I think they're all placeholders, to be honest with you.
I'm going to push back on you on that because I'm going to lean with Nick and say that Justin Fields has that potential, only because he was in a situation that Caleb is in right now where it was a bad management. He never really was given a chance. He went 4-2 for the Steelers. He's got a lot of athletic ability. He can run. He can throw the ball down the field. He needs to work on accuracy down the field and probably getting in rhythm with his receivers. However, he's had 4 to 5 offensive coordinators in, I think, 5 years in the league. So if he can get some consistency and build up, I think that he is the only one of the list that I read that could, because you just get down into people that are on the backside of their career, like Teddy Bridgewater, Russell Wilson. Sam Darnold, we don't know. When you get put with the greatest duo in the NFL, a lot of people on this list would do great in that offense. So we don't know, but I think Justin Field has the most upside of that.
No, and
my God.
agree with. What'd you say, Nick?
Sorry,
you okay?
Sorry.
Oh.
No, I just got an alert. I'm sorry.
Okay,
share it. It sounds like breaking news. Go ahead.
Matt, are you ready? Guess who you just traded for?
Who do we get?
Give me
a team. Give me a team. DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Did we get DK?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I saw it as a projection. Earlier. I didn't think that was actually going to happen. What did we trade?
Yes. It just happened, bro.
What did we trade?
Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Hold on, let me see. Yo, Matt's going crazy. Oh my goodness gracious.
Uh-oh.
I just found my rant, by the way. It's not Metcalf. It's something else that just happened in the NFL. Where'd it go? Hold on. Where did it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Bro, where did it go?
First of
It
all,
literally just happened.
how are you getting this information? It's not even popping up on my ESPN yet.
No, mine popped up on ESPN.
It did?
Oh, okay. I think I see what
Oh,
Nick's
wow.
gonna
It's a
rant about.
second round pick.
That's it?
Second round pick. And you gave him a 5-year extension
We're
for
lit.
$150 million.
Keep Russ. Keep Russ.
Oh, now you want to keep Russ?
Yep. Because Russ will throw the ball to him.
I mean, you might.
Yeah.
You might.
Yeah.
Or you go get Sam Darnold, maybe.
I was just
He
gonna say.
can
I'm
fling that
okay
thing.
with that, but I don't want to pay him.
If there's one thing Darnold can do, he can let it fly.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, Nick, but in the same sense, I guess this is just going to self-transition into free agency here. What a flawless transition.
That's insane, bro.
So right before the podcast started, we had some big moves that Nick wanted to share, but I guess while we're on the topic of the Steelers, yes, I would be fine with Sam Darnold. I wanted him originally before he went to Carolina, and also after he left Carolina, and after he left San Francisco. I wanted him each time. So the only thing is now that his contract stock is way up, even though he kind of went doo-doo for the last 2 games that he played. But yes, he can let it fly, but if the contract is right, I would rather keep Russ than Sam Darnold paying similar contracts for a shorter period of time. So thank you for breaking that news, Nick. That just made my night.
You're welcome.
I guess
You are
we're
welcome.
going to start the free agency, being that it's not really official free agency yet. We still have the tampering. I don't even know how these deals are allowed to go through right now. I don't understand the tampering section and how they're able to negotiate these deals already. But the actual free agency starts on the 12th. So that's coming up this upcoming week. But the most notable first trade that we could talk about is Deebo Samuel going to the Redskins for a 5th round pick. Nick, how do we feel about the value there
For who?
for
Or just in
Washington?
general? Both
He
sides.
went.
Oh, for
Deebo went.
Washington, it's
Deebo went for a
so
5th round pick.
yeah. So for someone of Deebo Samuel's caliber, a day 3 draft pick, and that's all, is the equivalent of taking 3 cheese doodles out of a bag. Okay. Keeping one on a napkin, one on just a table, and then the other one under your foot on the floor and smashing it into little pieces. The 49ers got the cheese doodle that was under your foot. This is an awful trade by the 49ers. I know we talked about this a little bit. I think it might have been last week. Washington is in serious business right now. And
And they got cap space.
yes, they do. So I'm very intrigued to see where else they go. I know they need a little bit of help on offensive line, and they could bolster their secondary a little bit, but I think they
St.
addressed
Juice
those in the
got to go.
draft.
Yeah.
What happened?
No, I said St. Juice has just got to go.
I think he's a free agent, but yeah. So I mean, great trade by Washington for sure. The I don't even want to say their window is even open yet because they had a rookie quarterback last year. So, but they're for real right now. So, hopefully my birds make a move. I know we kept a couple of our key guys, but you always got to keep building, you know. So, but yeah, that's a big move by the Niners for sure, or by the Commanders. Sorry.
Being that you guys seem to have a faster ESPN than me, I just got the news of the 2nd round pick on my phone. So thank you, Nick, for sharing that news again. All right, Cam, I want to lead this with you because the Patriots, your favorite team, have the most amount of cap space that we've seen in a long time. We know that you guys need some receivers, and there's a good amount of them in free agency. And I don't want to talk about Devontae Adams yet because he is not available.
Yeah.
We got. I'm going to read off a list here because there's some big names still available. We got Stephon Diggs, we got Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, an aging Chris Godwin, an aging Brandon Cooks, a troubled Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, and Mike Williams is again up for free agency. So, out of those, are you excited to possibly pick up one of those with all that cap space, or are you trying to just bolster your defense? What are you trying to do over there if you're the GM, Cam?
I mean, honestly, that if this were like a few years ago, I think that would be the list of some who's who list. Godwin, what he was his Achilles or his ACL that he tore, so he's not even going to be 100%. Well, he'll be back to 100%, hopefully mid-season. But I'm not going to go out and put the money on him. Everybody else has had an interesting year, so honestly, I would put it towards my defense. I don't feel there's a receiver really right now off of what we know that I would be wanting to go get. I think it's funny that a lot of receivers are requesting trades or asking for permission to be released. So I would say more to come. I don't think this. I think this will be a marathon, not a sprint.
I think you're
I
trying to
think
act positively that T. Higgins got franchise tagged and you really wanted him. I think you're just trying to look at the bright side here, Cam.
honestly, you know what? Realistically, there are no wide receivers that I was even thrilled about. But again, one of the points I was going to bring up afterwards is a lot of teams are just, as Nick said, releasing people for Cheetos or trading for Cheetos. So anything is possible. But
Cheese doodles,
I'm
Cam.
curious
Cheese
to see
doodles.
what cheese
Cheese
doodles.
doodles.
What do you say? Do you say Cheetos?
Yeah, we don't talk
Oh,
about Cheetos. We get cheese
okay.
doodles. Discount.
Okay.
Either or,
Sorry.
cheese or cheese doodles, cheese puffs, cheese poofs, whatever.
As long as
Don't
they say
matter.
cheese before it.
As long
But
as it's under your foot.
yeah, I said I think more to come. I think we're still really early. I think players will flex a little when they see what their teams are doing. But as of right now, as that list is presently constructed, I might want Tyler Lockett, but I would not. I would be okay with none of them, to be honest.
All right. Nick, as an Eagles fan with a dominant defensive line,
Go Birds.
do you bring Joey Bosa in for negotiations?
Good question. I was actually on the try to get Myles Garrett bandwagon. I was. I'll admit it because that would have been. Oh my god, that would have been crazy. But Josh Sweat is a free agent. So is Milton Williams. So I think it's more of a Milton played more like a D tackle kind of pass rushing interior lineman guy. I think we have to decide who we value more. I don't think we keep both of them. And then whoever we decide, I think we're going to try to keep Milton Williams, in my opinion, even though I love Josh Sweat. I think his Super Bowl performance was crazy. But there is an edge rusher available in free agency. If you guys know him, his name's Khalil Mack.
Yep.
That's the one. We get him. It's a wrap. That's all I'm going to say. Right, Khalil? If you're watching this, please subscribe. But also, come to Philly, baby. We will welcome you with open arms, and it'll be the closest he'll been to getting a ring. So it makes all the sense in the world. Come on, Khalil.
In this just this point, we've mentioned two Chargers edge rushers. The impact of both of them leaving their team could be an absolute disaster. We know what kind of a coach Harbaugh is. He's already proven success in his first year. The Chargers were good, if not decent. I mean, Herbert and their team has always been injured and injury prone. So we're always underwhelmed by their performance with the caliber of quarterback and offense that they've had in the past. But if they lose both of those players, we're just going to assume that they're going to be able to retain one of them. But if anyone's going to go, I think it would be Khalil because he was brought in after Joey Bosa was drafted there. So they're probably going to lean towards keeping Bosa there over Mac, but it really depends on their asking price. What do we think the Chargers' biggest needs are in the offseason because to get them to the next level? Either of you two can start with that one. I know we're all pretty indifferent to the Chargers.
um, you know what I think? Honestly, I think they had a good team this year. If you could bring back what you had, I think your biggest need isn't even it. Obviously, players, but it's consistency. You know, we put Justin Herbert. We question him because he's always been hurt. There's always been a but after his name. He got a new coach. He played. He had I thought, a great year. But was this lightning in a bottle, or is this what we're going to see going forward?
Mm-hmm.
So I think my question is to the Chargers: if you run it back, will you have the same kind of success or more success, or was this just a one and done? And with Justin Herbert, I think I don't know. So I don't know where to go on this because I don't know what I will see next year because he's not a top 4 quarterback. I would say in the AFC, we put other people ahead of him. We put other people ahead of their team, so I'm not sure if there's a draft pick or a free agent that will make us move them higher than we already feel they are. And when it comes down to it, without massive overhauls, I don't think we're even picking them, if you ask us, to even get to the AFC Championship game. So I'm not sure there's really anything they can do that's going to make me believe that they are now going to be contenders. I think they got a great coach, but they're not going to be better than. I don't see him beating Patrick Mahomes. I don't see him beating Lamar Jackson, and I don't see him beating Josh Allen. So right there, you're sitting at 4 after that. Hopefully 4. So not sure what any trades they can make to vault themselves over one of those 4. So to me, I really don't think it matters what you do. You're still not going to be the best in your division or in your conference.
So as we've seen in the league, is that coaching does actually go a long way.
Yeah.
You obviously have to have the talent, but I think all of us were scratching our head when the Chargers got rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. We didn't think that
Yeah.
Mike Williams was going to have this dramatic drop off because of how good he was in LA/San Diego. But I don't think we really expected Lad McConkey to be as good as he is. So obviously he knows
I
what
will
he's
say Nick
doing.
did.
Nick did he?
Nick knew.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Keenan Allen trade was also a salary cap move.
Okay, yeah, but in a sense, that wasn't a player that, in my opinion, I was expecting to see go for what he went for.
Fair.
True.
Very fair. Very fair.
Just like we weren't expecting to see Deebo Samuel leave for a 5th-round pick when everyone was projecting 3rd and maybe a 4th, or no less than a 4th, and he went in week 1 as a 5th-round pick. So there's always those shocking trades that we're always just like, well, what's the upside for San Francisco? So turning to San Francisco with their disaster season that they just had, filled with injuries. I mean, they've given up. I correct me if I'm wrong, but they gave up picks to get Trey Lance, right?
Just a 4th.
Just a 4th?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, wait, the 49ers. No. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. They
Yeah.
traded up to draft him. Yeah, you're
Yep.
right. They traded him to Dallas for a 4th-round pick or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
they traded up to get him multiple 1st-round picks just to get a 4th-round pick back.
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be a tough free agency for them. Last year, they were getting held out by Brandon Ayuk, and Nick Bosa might have been holding them out again. I can't remember if he signed the year before or not, but I know that they are really tough with contract negotiations. So in order to help Brock Purdy not get exposed as the mid quarterback that he is, what are they going to do in the offseason, do you think, Nick?
Uh, that's a good question. Because Ayuk was before the injury not super productive. I don't think he caught a touchdown last year. Or may have caught one.
Yeah, I think he had one, but he had a lot
Um,
of drop ones.
yeah, he was not playing well. Then the injury happened, and they gave him the extension last year. So I still think he's gonna. I think he'll come back and be much improved next year. He's going to be the new number one wide receiver for them, at least on the depth chart. Their offensive line is sort of aging a little bit. They have to figure out what they're going to do once Trent Williams decides to hang it up. He's a Hall of Fame tackle, no doubt, but they have to start thinking into the future. However, part of that future, it completely starts with two things. What do you do with Brock Purdy? And to be honest with you, I personally think Kyle Shanahan should be on the hot seat. This is just my opinion. You know, too often have we seen Kyle Shanahan, even back in his days when he was the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, and they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl. What happened? Choke. Right? Then he gets the job in San Francisco. They end up in the Super Bowl. Double-digit lead against Kansas City, and then the offense disappears with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kittle. I understand Steve Spagnuolo is a great coordinator for the Chiefs and all, but what did the Eagles do that the 49ers couldn't do? You know what I mean? In terms of how their teams are built. Right? They had two great receivers, a good tight end, a great running back, a quarterback that's not asked to do everything, good O-line, good defense, 1 year difference. So I think the first thing they need to figure out is, are they going to extend Brock Purdy? Yes or no? I think they're leaning towards yes. Right? I think that's part of the Deebo trade to free up that money to give it to Purdy. And then is Kyle Shanahan truly the right guy? Is Brock Purdy the right guy? I don't know. But I think nothing else gets answered until they figure out Brock Purdy. They have to answer that question first. So that's what I would pay attention to the most.
All right. So I want to highlight a point that you brought in there about Kyle Shanahan being on the hot seat, because yes, he has definitely been in controversy in terms of can he get the job done when it matters most. Most notably when he was up, I always get the score wrong, but I know it's 27-3 or is it 28-3?
28.
28-3.
28.
All you got to do is run the clock out and the game's over and we're throwing the ball. It's obviously a play calling issue. He has the play calling reins, even though there's an offensive coordinator in San Francisco. He's the one that really calls the plays. He definitely needs to be looked at after the season, uh, depending on what happens with. Obviously, it's not, I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust yet, but they need to be competitive this year and can't have another down year like they did this year. Speaking of coaches, though, which is why I wanted to bring this up, I am a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, as we all know. Mike Tomlin is always on the hot seat by Pittsburgh fans, not necessarily anybody else in the league. Everyone's like, well, why would you put Mike Tomlin? He never has a losing season, this, that, and the other thing. As an avid Steelers fan, all the fans, after if you lose a game, it's like Tomlin's got to go. We're just that toxic. So do we look at Tomlin as an issue for the Steelers, or do we look at his coaching staff picks as an issue? I have a rant that I'm going to go on about this, but I know both of you have to listen to it. all the time from me, so I'm going to let you guys speak on it before I go. Cam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, for the people listening, remember Matt is a Steelers fan, and we all do hang out outside of this podcast. So every Sunday, we do hear him rant about the Steelers and every single thing Steelers. But you know what? He's been a good coach, and I'm not a component of getting rid of him right now. I don't think there's a better coach that you could bring in. I think you can go different directions and hope, but I think he's built something solid there. And I know we're gonna rant about it, but I will say that you just signed DJ Metcalf, so I think he bought himself another year, which is fine. But I think if he doesn't win with DJ Metcalf, I think you may have to look the other way. I know there's a quarterback discussion in there, but you know he can catch the ball. He can make a bad quarterback look good. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying Justin Fields is a bad quarterback. My point is that he will elevate their quarterback play. So I think Mike Tomlin's bought himself another year. So I have no problem with him. I never really do. But at some point, I think it's time to go. I think I have more questions on Mike Shanahan because he hasn't closed the deal yet, whereas Tomlin at least has already closed the deal. So we don't look at him right now as the issue. We've turned to personnel. And I think he's a loyalist. He's loyal to his guys to a fault, maybe for a little too long. But, it's hard to find good work in reality. So, I mean, I can't really be too mad at him. But again, I'm not the fan like you are, so I don't have too much to say on this. From an outside perspective, I'm fine with Mike Tomlin as a Steelers coach. I think he's the best thing that organization has had, or most consistency they've had in a while. So that's just me. Nick, what do you think?
You're not getting rid of Mike Tomlin.
No.
There's just certain guys that command respect, and Mike Tomlin is one of those men.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of being a players coach, culture, pedigree, right? He has the resume. He's a 2-time champion in his own right. He will end up in the Hall of Fame as a coach. Never had a losing season. There's no question. You're not getting rid of him. Also, I do agree the Metcalf trade is a big time investment. It is win now time. So the quarterback, whoever it's going to be, it's on. This is a huge make or break year for the Steelers. But I don't think Tomlin should be under any hot seat or be fired after the season or something like that, unless it just goes completely awry. If they end up going like 2-15 or something crazy, like first because like Shanahan, Dable from the Giants, like there's plenty of other coaches that you look at and say they're going to get fired before Mike Tomlin does. So that's my 2 cents.
All right.
When did the Steelers win their last ring, Matt?
Don't want to talk about it, but 2008 to 2009.
Okay, it wasn't that wasn't meant to be it wasn't meant to be a dig. I just knew you knew the answer really quickly. So just to piggyback
They
on
went in
what
2010, though. They went there and lost to Green Bay.
so I guess the question we would ask in general, and you would ask yourself from maybe a Steelers fan's point of view is, and I get it. I'm never a fan of getting rid of somebody if they win. You don't get rid of winners. If you haven't won since or been there since 2010, I mean, we've got questions, but the alternative is at least you're still winning. You're still giving yourself an opportunity to get there, and he's still giving you that opportunity. Like Nick said, it's win now mode, and I don't know if there's another quarterback out there where you can say we're ready to win now and we're going to take a chance on. So I think I think he's safe this year. If something happens, yeah, he'll be on the hot seat, but every coach is on the hot seat after you lose. So it'll be an interesting year. I'm curious. Matt, what do you think?
Oh my
What's
God!
your
Here
rant?
we here we go. I'm with you guys. I don't want to get rid of Mike Tomlin. I think he's great. my point to back him up is going back. First of all, we got to look at they just got a new GM about 2 years ago. This is going to be his third off season. You go from a Steelers team that was never active in free agency. You're looking around like Jerry Jones, like, oh, are we going to sign this guy? Are we going to sign this guy? It's like, no, we can't afford him, so we're not going to get him. We're going to build up through the draft. Uh, Having said that, when Kevin Colbert was the general manager, you get guys like Antonio Brown in the 6th round. You get Le'Veon Bell in the 2nd round. You get Deontay Johnson in the 2nd round. You get Chase Claypool in either the 2nd or the 3rd round. And Mike Tomlin's able to command those pretty, you know, big personalities where you didn't really see. You saw little bits and pieces of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon crashing out in terms of on the field antics slash Le'Veon holding out, and then you had Deontay Johnson who gets mad every now and then about not being getting the ball or being involved, and then Chase Claypool doing his stupid celebration when there's 15 seconds left in the game and we need to get on the ball. Either way, every one of those players, besides Antonio Brown, who got, just put on a crazy generational team in Tampa Bay, every single one of those players hasn't done a damn thing after they leave the Steelers. Antonio Brown leaves and he crashes out at the Raiders and he crashes out at New England. Tom Brady was, I guess, his saving grace by convincing Bruce Arians to take him in the Bucks. Then you got Le'Veon Bell, who didn't do anything after he left the Steelers, and he was arguably one of the best running backs in that period of time ever. With the way that he ran the football, being as patient as he was, being able to just stand there at the line of scrimmage and then pick his spot, the play wouldn't develop for at least 3 seconds. Then you got Deontay Johnson, who I said was the next Antonio Brown years ago. I didn't forget saying that. I guess I wasn't wrong in terms of personality, but uh, his route running ability and whatnot. I mean, the Steelers can draft great, but it just seems like they have the tendency, and now they have George Pickens who's being a diva. Mike Tomlin's able to control that. You're not going to get something like that with the Raiders head coach, who you got players walking all over him trying to get out of there. You're not going to get there. I mean, I think Belichick, Andy Reid. I would give Phillies coach Sirianni. I would give Mike Tomlin, and I would give Harbaugh of the Ravens the utmost respect in the league. You, you, you don't see people trying to force trades out of there. So you got to look at it from that perspective. However, his coaching staff, and I wish Tomlin would take the reins, and I hope he does. I can't tell you because I'm not in the door, but the snow game where the Steelers played the Browns this past season, and Jameis Winston is just having one of his days against us, and our defense is looking like the 0-16 Browns, and you send a blitz on 3rd down, and it gets there, and Jameis doesn't even have an ounce of clue what's going on, and it's an incomplete pass, and then they're going to go for it on 4th down, which they're 4 from 4, and you decide to rush 3. Get that defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, out. Get Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, out. They are predominantly run heavy offense. However, now we got 2 receivers that can run routes and catch the ball and moss anybody in the league. I think you should honestly take the cheap get back at Deontay Johnson and bring him back as a number 3 just to have a route runner, because we don't know what Roman Wilson can do. He didn't even touch the field in the preseason. So overall, yes, Mike Tomlin needs to be there. He's a great coach, players coach. I don't think there's one player in the league that says, I don't want to play for Mike Tomlin. You don't get that very often. Sometimes you get players that say, I will not be playing there. And that just says a lot about the culture. I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to pick Brian Daboll or even uh, Dan Campbell deserves the respect at this point too. But you're not going to see somebody that chooses Brian Daboll over Mike Tomlin if they have the option. That being said, I don't want to keep going and going into 20 minutes of Steelers rants, but Yeah, the whole Pittsburgh fan narrative of Mike Tomlin being this horrible coach, and he inherited Bill Cowher's team and won with Bill Cowher's team and couldn't get back to the Super Bowl, and you held on to Ben Roethlisberger too long, and this, that, and the other thing. Being said all that, he hasn't lost a. He went 8-8 with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Who is Duck Hodges? The guy was sitting out with like Duck Dynasty, shooting varmints and calling ducks with the whistle, and he comes in and wins games for us in the NFL. He shouldn't have been in the NFL, but he was. And Mike Tomlin didn't have a losing season. So then you have Kenny Pickett, who I hate talking about because now he's a Super Bowl champion. Oh, it drives me crazy. I'm honestly starting to sweat right now talking about this. You got Kenny Pickett, who anytime the wind blows, the guy is hurt, and Mitchell Trubisky, who can't seem to hit a billboard if you put it 2 feet in front of his face. Playing quarterback, and you still don't have a losing season. You can't do that if you're not a good coach. So TJ Watt's there. Minka Fitzpatrick had a down year, but I think that's because of the defensive coordinator. If I was the GM of the Steelers, I would get rid of both the offensive and the defensive coordinator. I'd let Najee walk. I'd sign Jalen Warren. I'd sign Deontay Johnson back. I'd draft the guy from Boise in the first or second round, and the running back specifically, and then I'd waste the rest of the picks in the offensive and defensive line, and I'd pick a corner in free agency. That being said, Nick, your Eagles don't need to do anything in free agency. I don't want to hear anything you have to say about that. They just won the Super Bowl. They're fantastic. Me and Cam have some work to do.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is Matthew Baywood every Sunday during the NFL season.
By the way, all those Pittsburgh Steeler fans that are watching this, we love you. Please subscribe.
Oh,
Just because Baywood's a little upset about them, we still got love for you guys. So
oh man, I got so off track now. Cam, do you have anything you want to ask at the moment? Because I honestly I need a second here.
I am laughing so hard. I'm not. I don't think people understand that this is every Sunday, and the fact that we're trying to do other things, he would keep going. Just so you all know, he'll go down the list and talk about everybody. You know what? Actually, going back to the 49ers, maybe if we switch teams right away, Matt will come back down and cool off. But just to tie everything we've been saying in, you know, the 49ers drafted up to get Trey Lance, correct?
yes,
And to tie it in, Nick, if you draft up to get somebody, that means they had a very good combine. That is where Trey Lance is.
yeah.
That
Yep,
is
or
where
the
his
combine.
name was dropped. We heard about Trey Lance at the combine, and then we went and had a great pro day. So to tie it all together, it can only help you. It can't hurt you. So I just want to throw that out there. In terms of the 49ers, I mean, to me, it's their offense. You know, they're too Christian McCaffrey centric. He doesn't play, they lose. It's that simple. So Brock Purdy, no Purdy. Deebo, no Deebo. That offense revolves around Christian McCaffrey. So until they figure out how to make it more balanced, I don't see them going any further than they've currently been. And unfortunately, they don't have Deebo anymore, and Ayuk is coming off of a injury. So I think sky's the limit for them in general. But again, more questions than answers. And I think the question is, would Nick Bosa play with his brother?
Mm.
Oh, I think he would.
You're a free agent now, right? He's a free agent, I believe.
Yeah.
So he can go
Joey
where
is,
he
yeah.
chooses to
Yep.
play. And I think one of the things I was disappointed about is that I never got to see the Watt brothers play together. I think that would have been very entertaining. But I think we could see the Bosa brothers play together. I think it would be something that's not too far-fetched. You know, the 49ers are looking to spend some money. We'll see how they revamp. But I don't think they're that far off. I think they just need to redo their offense, and maybe that's getting rid of Kyle Shanahan. But They're too Christian McCaffrey centric. So until they fix that, I don't have them going anywhere. And I'm not saying he's not good. Christian McCaffrey's a very good player, but that offense revolves around him, and it doesn't have to.
Okay, so I know we've talked about individual like sort of teams and what their needs were a little bit. I sort of pick and chose some of the hot teams out there that are most talked about. But to hear from you guys as what team in the NFL you think, and I'll give you an AFC and an NFC option, um, each. What team do you think is under the most pressure in free agency to perform? Slash draft, I guess. Who has the most important off season?
Oh, well, I
You want
would.
me to go first, or Cam? You
Yeah.
want it?
I'll let Nick go first. I already have my answer, but I think Nick might say the same thing if we're on the same page. But I'll let Nick go first. I'm gonna roll the dice here.
So my well, actually, I was gonna say the Bengals, but just got a notification. Josh Allen just got paid $330 million.
Excuse me?
So I'm changing it to Buffalo, so I can let. I think Cam, were you gonna pick the Bengals or the Ravens?
I was gonna pick a team. It was one of them. Actually, I didn't think you were gonna go
It was
there
one of
on
them.
the free agency because I knew I did see that update, but I was waiting for you to say it. I didn't think you were going here with that, but yeah, go
So yeah,
for it.
I'm gonna talk about Buffalo. So I'll let you have those other couple of squads. Um, this is a mega deal for Josh Allen coming off the MVP. Correct me if I'm wrong. Were they in the AFC Championship game this past year
Mhm.
in Arrowhead? And did they lose again to Patrick Mahomes? Is that correct?
They may have, yes.
And $250 million guaranteed to Josh Allen.
Crazy.
Where is the rest of the money to get him to the Super Bowl for the other players? How does this help them? Listen, Josh Allen's incredibly talented, deserving of MVP this year. No one is denying his greatness as a quarterback. And no one's denying that he deserves a contract extension. But this, to me, this is like Lamar all over again. A replay of it. Wins MVP, gets bag, no Super Bowl. Repeat. It's crazy to me. They just let Von Miller go. Amari Cooper's a free agent, right? Is Amari Cooper's a free agent? The guy
Yep.
they
Yes, he
traded
is.
picks for?
Yep, he's a free agent.
Shakir was their leading receiver. They extended him. Great. I don't know. I don't know if this is the right move. I really don't. I loved watching Josh Allen play. This ain't it, man. This is good. So if they don't get to the Super Bowl now, I don't know. This is yeah. Go ahead, Cam. Dude, that is so much money. Oh my god.
Um, Matt, read the question one more time.
Oh, I just said what team, AFC and NFC. So Nick, do you have an NFC team or are you just all in on the Bills there?
Oh, sorry. Um, uh, off. Well, I mean, biggest off season. Um, well, I think under the most pressure for next year would probably be the Lions, um, and or the 49ers. Those will be my two picks. I think the Lions with, the injuries and stuff, they were the NFC favorite. right? So they have to, and they just lost their offensive coordinator, so we have to see how they respond.
Mm.
And but the one with the most question marks in terms of who are we going to fill in to places and stuff, to me, would be San Francisco of the potential like good teams, you know. So those would be my two picks.
I know I sort of asked a similar question to this maybe a couple weeks ago, but being that the free agency is kicking up now, and now we got the combine and whatnot, it might my personally my picks have changed um since 2 weeks ago. But I'm gonna let Cam go just because I know he's itching to say something here.
Who's under the most pressure? I'm going to start with the NFC. I'm going to go Dallas.
Oh, you stole it from me,
Ooh.
Cam. You stole it
So
from me.
I knew it was there. I thought Nick was going to say it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say Dallas. I was going to say I think last week my my answer actually probably would have been Washington, and I know they had a great year, but how do you follow that up? I think Dallas is probably the team I would say, and because you didn't do anything last year. You didn't go out and get anybody. You have questions at running back. Your quarterback restructured his deal, so now you have more money. Let's see what you do. Cowboy fans are falling off the cliffs because they didn't win a Super Bowl. We had to go through a whole nother year of that, them being the best team. I think there's so many questions of what's going on in Dallas that we can't overlook some of the things that other teams are doing or their needs. But Dallas just going under the radar in the offseason right now, I don't see happening. So I think to me, they have the most questions. And in the AFC, I was gonna say Cincinnati, but I'm still waiting to see how they handle their big four situation, even though Trey Hendrickson just requested a trade or to talk to other teams. So I'm gonna go with Baltimore. We need to see what they're going to do. We are not denying that they don't have a good team, but I think they're under the most pressure. That to me, they have the most pressure. Again, here we are. Lamar did not play well again. Don't let it fool you. I know we had dropped passes that would have changed the complexity of the game, but Lamar did not play well. Don't let the score, the outcome of the few drops we saw from receivers, let it be like he played well. He did not. He had stretches where he played well, but he did not play great. And he got sent home yet again with a very talented roster. So to me, free agency, you need to shore up a few things. They're literally one or two pieces away. So to me, I would say the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to stay away from Cincinnati because I got a feeling things aren't going to go the way I hope for them, and we're going to be talking about them more during the summer. So I'm going to stay away from that one. Sorry, Nick. I was going to do it, but I couldn't. Not yet
I changed both of mine.
because I'm so
I
with
think
them.
I think I had originally done San Francisco and Baltimore, and I might have thrown Buffalo in there as well. But now I'm going Pittsburgh and Dallas just after the news today. Um, the excuse for the Steelers 2 years ago was that we had receivers and we didn't have a quarterback. We had Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky. And before that, we had a Ben Roethlisberger that could throw the ball about as far as me. We had receivers at that time. We had a defense at that time, but then it was the aging quarterback and the offensive coordinator. So being that it was Matt Canada, who shouldn't have even his offense stunk at LSU, it shouldn't have ever made it to the to the NFL. Um, don't I don't want to start that again, but I have to go on this another Pittsburgh rant. Now we cannot have excuses. You got George Pickens, who is arguably a number one, and you got DK, who is definitely a number one. They both wear 14. Uh, we'll see how that goes. We might see 14 squared on both their jerseys this season. But besides that, now if you re-sign Russell Wilson, who I think is in this instance, when you have two bona fide receivers like this, you need to have a quarterback that's pretty pass dependent and can change the playbook a little bit. than Justin Fields. You're not going to want DK Metcalf on a team with Justin Fields. DK is going to want the ball. George is going to want the ball. And Justin isn't going to be able to supply that to him nonstop. In an offense with one dominant receiver, two dominant tight ends, because Darnell Washington is a force to be reckoned with when he gets the ball. The guy is just a monster. And a running game, when you have Jalen Warren, who could change the pace compared to Najee, who's more of like the Ezekiel Elliott type of power back, you can't have the excuse with the highest paid defense in the league being the Steelers with the Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, who I think should go after this during this offseason. And you got TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., who don't even get me started on him. I would trade him in a heartbeat for a 6th-round pick. But under the most pressure, the Steelers have been knocking on the door of a playoff win. I think they're under not only the most pressure to get something done, they're on the most pressure to win a playoff game. Same with Dallas. Dallas has the most pressure to win a playoff game because they just doubled down on Dak Prescott, which I don't know why you would. The guy hasn't done anything. And now you don't have any money to pay all these guys. You got CeeDee Lamb, you got Micah Parsons, and you got Dak Prescott, and I think not Trevor Lawrence. What Lawrence is it on their team, Nick? The pass rusher,
DeMarcus Lawrence.
DeMarcus Lawrence. You got DeMarcus Lawrence hogging all their money. Not just DeMarcus. I mean, all 4 of those players hogging all their money. What are you going to do in the offseason? You said you
Lamb
could.
also restructured.
He did.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Lamb and Dak did.
okay, so you got some restructuring going on, but last year you couldn't afford Derrick Henry, which I don't know why you wouldn't even try to restructure somebody to get Derrick Henry. The guy ran all over the NFL. You have a good offensive line. You have a pretty decent defense when they're all healthy. Dak is under some serious pressure when they double down on him like that to succeed. And you're in quotation marks America's team. By the way, the Steelers were offered America's team back in the day, and they said no, we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. So a discussion for another day, but I think it's both those teams under the most pressure, being that they're talked about every season. The Steelers haven't been favored to win any playoff games in the past couple of years, but now that we have gotten all the excuses that all the Steelers fans, including myself, have been making for the Steelers, I think that they are number one on my list as pressure to win. If they sign one of the quarterbacks that they just had on their roster, specifically Russell Wilson, or if they go get Sam Darnold, I think now's the time to go get Sam Darnold. But and then Dallas because of what I just said. So I don't know if any of you guys want to refute what I just said or refute what anybody else wants to say. But before we get into Nick's rant, I think we could wrap it up here.
Well, you're the Steelers fan, so I go by you. So I would not rant anything, but I will say in general, when teams make big moves or bring in really good players, we have to look at everything. And even if we look at last year when we were watching Steelers games, I think one of the things we said was Russell Wilson, there's plays where he needs to just not take the sack. And his mobility was questioned. So we were like, put in Justin Fields, who would not get sacked, but wouldn't throw the ball. So to me, I don't mind either quarterback if you're going to go through do that duo thing again, which I think they are. But if you could find a quarterback kind of in the middle, I think DJ and oh God, who's the other receiver? Who's the other receiver? Pickens will be happy because obviously they weren't happy with Fields because he didn't throw the ball enough to Pickens. But Wilson would throw the ball a lot but couldn't get moved once the pocket collapsed.
Pickens was fine with Fields because they were winning games, but I know DK and Pickens being both number one receiver capability, they're going to be a little toxic with each other if it comes to the point that Justin Fields is only giving them 2 targets a game each.
Well, I think that's where you need that's where you need the experienced quarterback. And that's why you will probably keep Wilson unless by some chance there's a very experienced quarterback out there who is looking for a team who is a Hall of Famer and knows how to handle egos like that. But I'm not sure that you would bring that person in as opposed to just keeping what you currently have. So
Cam
again,
dropping a big hint there.
again, it's the off season is young, so
Yep.
I think everything will ramp up around the draft, and I personally feel there's going to be something that's going to happen. I know Matt's jaw dropped when he got Metcalf, but I think there's some other things out there that could happen that'll just leave us like, wow. For example, is there a team out there that drafts up into the top 4 or 3 that none of us saw coming?
It's
Look at
possible.
Jacksonville. Look at Jacksonville. Their quarterback had an awful year and got hurt, but they have their quarterback. They have a pretty high draft pick too, I believe. Where's Jacksonville sit? At
5.
5, yeah.
Do they draft back? And who comes up? Where do the Giants go? There's so many freaking questions. What are the Giants doing? I just think that a lot of NFL things are going to happen. And I still think, even though we're talking about free agency and the combine, as these weeks progress, we're going to see more. Because, like you said, Josh Allen just signed a huge contract. Who's he going to pay? Who are they going to pay? They want to bring Cook back, but maybe they can't anymore. I haven't dove into it. I'm not sure. The Cincinnati Bengals, what are you doing? 49ers, what are you doing? There's so many what are you doing questions, and it's only the start of the free agency. And I will not rant. Now I took that time to rant, but I will let you guys go because I'll say too much on this.
All right, Nick. What do you got on your mind this week? You got a rant, or did you already do your rant, or do you have a rant planned now?
Oh, I think I got one. So, today's rant is going to be about the Seattle Seahawks. As you guys heard by Baywood screaming, they traded DK Metcalf today for a second round pick. They also traded Geno Smith to Las Vegas. Pete Carroll also left the organization. Where is Pete Carroll? I believe he's in Las Vegas. So, where is the Seattle Seahawks? Their quarterback's gone. Their wide receiver's gone. Pete Carroll is gone.
Their other wide receiver is on
They
free agency.
released Tyler Lockett. Yeah. So speaking of it, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Even more. So, I understand. Seattle was kind of at a wall, right? They were who they were, and I think a lot of the consensus was that this is the best we're going to be with Geno Smith, right? Geno Smith wasn't going to take them to the next level. Fine. But DK Metcalf, the guy looks like the Terminator. What? Why would you let him walk and let the quarterback walk and let Tyler Lockett walk? They're destroying their offense. Maybe they have some grand master plan. Who knows? But Seattle looks worse than the 49ers trading Deebo for cheese doodles. As I say, a day 3 draft pick might as well be cheese doodles. I question. This makes me feel like that I could be a general manager. Like I could have probably got a first round pick for DK Metcalf, to be honest with you. So I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. People are going to get fired in Seattle. That's all I'm going to say. So, Seattle, if you're watching this, please subscribe. But y'all are going to get fired soon.
Nick,
That's my rant.
I'm pretty sure the Steelers tried to inquire on DK Metcalf's trade value last year. I think they wanted 2 firsts.
Okay, but I would have only taken one.
I know, but I'm saying I think they wanted 2 firsts, and now they got a second.
Oh my! I know. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. 2 firsts. You went from 2 firsts to a second, and you have no quarterback, and you lost an additional wide receiver.
Your quarterback
And they
and your coach went to the same team.
and guess what? You know what else they did last year? You know what else they did last season? They lost to Daniel Jones. Enough said. My rant is over. I'm sorry. Just take it away. I'm sorry. Just take it away.
All right. We're going to transfer into Baywood's bets here. So, Sunday, I say a bet. I'm going to change this up a little bit just because last week I had said that I had the $100 in balance. That's true. I made some bets throughout the week, but I don't like having to pick today. I like doing the picks throughout the week. So I will comment my picks for this upcoming week every day that I see the line, address the line, and pick from there. I will comment as I did this past week. So I'm just going to do a review of my week. I didn't include my Friday night or Saturday night bets, but all 3 of us were at the casino together when this happened. So Monday, I had picked the Hawks versus the Grizzlies over 251. I believe that was good. Then no, maybe not. Let me look at the review quick. But then I had then I had OKC Memphis versus Memphis over 251. That locked. I think that ended at 261. Then my least favorite bet to place is an even number spread. I picked Orlando versus the Lakers -4 against the Clippers, and I think it pushed. My least favorite bet ever. Thursday morning, I woke up and I picked Orlando versus Chicago over 219. My favorite over the weekend was the Cleveland versus the Hornets. I had live bet over 234.5 with 15 seconds left. They were down by like 12. Donovan Mitchell sinks 2 free throws. Hornets go up. LaMelo Ball is fouled out at this point. They score 2. Donovan goes back to the line, drains 2 more. Hornets go back up. They score 2. Or they score, yeah, they either score a 2 or a 3 at that juncture. Donovan gets fouled again. Scores 2 more. Now I'm like, well, we got like 2 or 3 seconds left, and I'm down by 2 or 1.5. I get the 2 free throws. I win the bet by a half point when I typically would take an under in that situation and be screwed by the half point. So I was very, very thrilled about that. So I'm going to go through the games that I am looking forward to this week and the ones that I will guaranteed be placing a bet on, and I will let you guys know throughout the week in the comment section. I'll keep updating the same comment for which picks that I'm going to take. So starting on Monday, we got the Trailblazers at Warriors. That one I am guaranteed to place a bet on. On Tuesday, I'm skipping. On Wednesday, we have the Suns at the Rockets. I will be placing a bet on guaranteed. Then on Friday, we have the Lakers at Nuggets. I will guaranteed be placing a bet on that game. So, Cam, that being said, what is your jam of the week?
Well, we're going to go into the college basketball world, and the regular season is over. It is time for postseason. So we're going to shout out, being we are from Connecticut, we're going to look at some Connecticut teams. I'm going to say Tuesday night, New Britain, Connecticut, Central Connecticut playing for the NEC championship. This will be their first trip back to the tournament if they win, since I was there in '07. So that would be one of my games to watch this week. If you don't know, Central, the gym holds maybe 3,500 if everybody's jam packed, but it it's always been a great atmosphere for playoff games. You know, it goes to the mid-major level school where you don't get to be on TV except maybe once or twice a year, and all the conference championship games are on TV. So pay attention. 7 o'clock, ESPN2. I know you don't know what I look like, but look for me if you know who I am. Then I would say, you know what? Keep your eye on all the tournaments. I know Nick's dark horse to win the NCAA tournament. I won't say because I know next Sunday is Selection Sunday, and then Monday is Selection Sunday on the women's side, who we had an upset today, and Juju did not win the Big Ten championship, which I was not aware of. I thought she was going to win. So more to come on that next week. But just all conference championship games. They start Wednesday, I believe, in the Big East. And I think, if I'm wrong, maybe tomorrow in the SEC. Um, so you can't find a bad game this week. Pick one.
All right,
But
so
I would say
Cam's
if you
Jam
had
of
to
the Week
watch,
is all college basketball
it's
games.
all basketball. This is March Madness beginning. But I would say if I had to pick a conference to watch, keep an eye on the SEC, because I think the number of teams that they get in are going to be staggering. But their top 7 teams, realistically, anyone could win the SEC. I know Auburn gets a lot of love, but don't be surprised if Monday comes around and we see Texas A&M as the winner of the SEC, or even a Tennessee or one of those schools getting hot at the right time. So I know I love Duke and they might pick to win a national title, but keep an eye on the SEC because I think that will be very thrilling this week.
So Cam alluded to it, but next week we got a full college basketball slate. Just like today was all football, it was a mix between the NFL and college. We're going all college basketball. It is March Madness season. Um, so therefore we need to talk about college basketball. There's a lot of great players out there. There's a lot of great teams out there, and it's time to fill out our brackets and hope we win a lot of money. So with that being said, Nick, do you have anything to say before you kick us out?
I do not. I do have my dark horse pick for March Madness, but for those of you listening at home, you're going to have to tune in next week to hear it. So, hate to leave you guys on a cliffhanger, but that's what we do. That's that. So, we want to thank everybody for tuning in again. We really appreciate all the support and the love. Make sure you guys, again, subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment. Follow Baywood's Bets in the comment section. Let us know what bets you're making too. We're here to help each other make some money, and we're here to help entertain each other, and it's one big community. We love you guys, and have a good night.